this is Hayley Kamacha bringing you Pokemon Art Academy. We are in episode 9 of my series, and as you recall from my previous episode, I had drawn the Pikachu finale from the Novice course, so I am now an Apprentice. But rather than move on to the Apprentice course, I am going to backtrack a little bit and finish the Novice courses before I move on to the Apprentice courses. And since Professor Andy didn't seem upset that I had drawn the cosplay Pikachu instead of a normal Pikachu, I think I'm going to experiment a little bit, and I'm going to try drawing Pachirisu, Pichu, and Gengar in their shiny forms because they're relatively easy to redo. Like Pachirisu, for example, where it's normally blue, it would be pink. For Pichu, its colors look just like a Pikachu, and then Gengar, it's a little bit more of a grayish color rather than purple. So I'm going to start with Pachirisu, and I'm going to see if I can achieve their shiny forms. If they won't let me unlock that big palette, then I'll just draw them in their normal forms. So, let's speed up! Now, since I'm on the subject about shiny Pokemon, I think I'll talk about some of the stories that I have about shiny Pokemon. I have a few stories that I'd like to share. The first one being my first ever shiny. Now, for those of us who are old enough to have played Pokemon Gold and Silver, I don't consider the red Gyarados from the Lake of Rage to be my first shiny, because in all honesty, that is something that everyone encounters. That is something that you have to encounter in order to progress the story. And since everyone encounters that, I didn't think that there was anything special about having the red Gyarados, so I don't consider that my first shiny, even though technically it was my first shiny, but I still don't consider it to be my first shiny because I didn't feel like it was mine, you know, when everyone else had to encounter that same Gyarados. So the first Pokemon that I consider to be my first shiny ever, this had happened after I had gone through both Johto and Kanto. I had defeated all of the gyms. I had defeated the Elite Four for the second time, and I was exploring Mount Silver, and I remember that I was permitted to go into the chamber where the Pokemon trainer Red was located. I don't think I was actually there to challenge him. I don't remember exactly, but I don't think that I was there to challenge him. I think I was actually there to do some grinding. But I do remember that I was in that last chamber where you encounter Red. And as I was grinding, one of the Pokemon that I found inside that chamber was a shiny Golbat. Now, I do find a fascination with bats, so I don't hold any grudges against Zubats and Golbats. Like I know some people, I've seen some videos on YouTube where people are like, no, that's a Zubat. That's a Zubat. Who cares about a Zubat? I don't hold any grudges against Zubats and Golbats because I do find a fascination with bats. So this shiny Golbat, it was this green Golbat with pink wings, and it was a female too. I was in love with that Pokemon. I was very careful with making sure that I didn't make it faint. And I successfully caught it, and because it was a girl, I decided to nickname it Night Angel, and I just love that Pokemon. I put it on my team like as soon as I was able to get to a PC, and I took care of that Golbat and I went to the place where you could get your Pokemon groomed, and you know, kept its friendship up. And because that was one of the Pokemon that you evolve using friendship, and when it evolved into a Crobat, I was just absolutely in love with it. A shiny pink Crobat, and I just loved that Pokemon so much. Um, that was the first Pokemon that I consider to be my shiny, my first ever shiny. And that is a Pokemon that is very near and dear to my heart. Um, the the first shiny that okay, first of all, these other stories that I'm going to tell, they all actually take place in Pokemon X, because, you know, all throughout Ruby and Sapphire and Emerald, throughout Platinum and Pearl and Diamond, and all throughout Black and White, I had never encountered another shiny. Like I had gotten some shinies in trades, and I had gotten some shinies through mystery gift events. Like I got the shiny Suicune because of the movie event about Zora and Zoroark. Um, I had gotten the shiny Suicune, but that didn't feel very personal to me, because again, that's something that everyone can have. Everyone could have a shiny Suicune, a shiny Entei, a shiny Raikou, and it just didn't feel special to me. Getting those event Pokemon, and the shinies that I would get in trades, again, they didn't feel like I didn't feel like they were my Pokemon. I had only gotten them because someone else was generous enough to give them to me. So I'm not going to talk about those stories, but one of my favorite stories that I'm going to share with you is the first shiny that I had ever hatched, and the reason for that is because I had actually had two shinies hatch from the same batch of Pokemon. What I was doing was I was uh, I was breeding a light ball Pikachu with a Japanese Ditto, and what I was trying to do was I was trying to hatch shiny Pichus with Volt Tackle, um, and I had gone through like 6 whole days of hatching eggs and not getting any shinies, but I wasn't giving up. And then like near the end of the 6th day that I was like bicycling around the center of Lumio's city, I had this batch of eggs that I was hatching, and and of the 5 eggs that I had with me, first the second one had hatched, and it was a shiny, and I was all like, "Oh my gosh, it's a shiny! It's so adorable!" And it was a boy, so I decided to nickname it Sparks. Um, and I was so hyped. I was so thrilled. I was all excited. So I was I didn't have a Pokemon that knew Fly with me, so I was going to the nearest Pokemon Center to pick up a Pokemon that had Fly, so that I could go to the breeding center and get my next Pokemon breeding project that I was going to do. I was going to get that set up. As I was leaving the Pokemon Center, and I flew over and I was on my way to the breeding center. As I was doing that, the third egg in my batch, it was hatching, and it was a shiny. Like 2 shinies in the same batch, and they were back to back. I was so ecstatic. I was beside myself, and that one was a female. Um, because it was a female, I decided to nickname it Sparkles. So I had a male shiny Pichu, and his nickname was Sparks, and a shiny female Pichu, and her nickname was Sparkles. What I ended up doing was I traded the female to a friend of mine in real life. I traded it to her, and she still has it on her game. And then I traded the male to Abdallah Smash 026, and he ended up trading it to someone else. And at first I was disappointed that he did that, but during that live stream, as he was trading that Pichu away, he was talking about how I told him the story that I just mentioned, that I called them twins because they were two eggs from the same batch and they were both shiny, so that's why I called them twins. And I was telling him that, and I was so excited, and apparently my excitement was contagious enough that he remembered me telling that to him, and he mentioned that on that live stream. So that made me feel better that even though he was trading away that Pokemon, he still had that memory. That really touched me. So that was the first shiny that I had ever hatched. Now I do have a couple of other stories that I would like to share, and they are my favorite shinies. First of all, I want to talk about my favorite shiny encounter. My favorite shiny random encounter. And this was happening while I was doing some grinding just outside of Kuraway Town, I think that town is called. Um, I was doing some grinding in anticipation for my rematch battle against Abdallah Smash 026, because we had talked about a rematch after I had my first battle with him in one of his live streams. While I was doing that, I had a random encounter with a shiny, and it was a Graveler. And the first thought that popped into my head was, oh my goodness, this is a shiny Graveler, and we all know that Gravelers, they like to use self-destruct. So my head was spinning. I was just thinking to myself, now how in the world am I going to make sure that I catch this Graveler before it uses self-destruct? Because if I use any kind of move at all, I risk letting it have that move, and if it makes that move, I lose that shiny. So, what I finally ended up thinking of was I had some quick balls in my pocket, in my bag. So I threw the quick ball like right off the bat, and I did successfully catch it. It did not break out, and I was so thankful for that. And I was thinking to myself, okay, what am I going to nickname this Pokemon? Because I like to nickname all of my Pokemon. This was during a time when Abdallah Smash 026, he was doing a Let's Play of Super Mario World, and he had finished one of the levels where oh, I can't think of what they're called, but they are the boulder like enemies, and he had beaten that level, and you know, at the end of the levels, you know, you get those little messages from Miiverse, from various people in the Miiverse, and they would scroll across, and I remember seeing one of those messages was someone had said Mega Golem Fire/Rock, and Abdallah noticed that message too, and he got a real good kick out of it. So I was thinking, okay, I'm going to nickname this Graveler Mega Golem, and I had messaged Abdallah, and I asked him to if he could, if I were to trade this Graveler to him, would he trade me a legendary, and then I would trade the legendary back to him so that I could get my Graveler back. And he agreed to that. And you can see that trade taking place on one of my videos. And when he saw that I had nicknamed my Graveler Mega Golem, he and I got a really big kick out of that. He just, I don't. I wish I could have seen the look on his face when he saw that nickname, but I could tell that he got a really big kick out of that. So that was my favorite random encounter. My favorite random hatch. This had happened. My favorite shiny hatch, actually, and I do consider it kind of a random encounter because this had happened completely by accident. What was going on was I was at a point where I wasn't as concerned about shiny breeding as I was concerned about breeding Pokemon with good IVs. So what I was doing at the time was I was trying to collect as many Pokemon as I could that had their hidden abilities, and breed them with compatible Pokemon that had good IVs, and build up their offspring so that they could have either 5 or 6 IVs. Now I've only had a few 6 IV Pokemon as a result, but I have had most of them I've ended up with 5 IVs. One of these breeding projects that I was doing at that time was a Bulbasaur, and what had happened was I had taken a male Bulbasaur with chlorophyll, and I had taken a female Bulbasaur with chlorophyll, and like the male had I think 3 perfect IVs, and then the female had 3 perfect IVs from the opposite. Like everything that the Bulbasaur was perfect in, like the male Bulbasaur was perfect in, the female wasn't, and everything that the female was perfect in, the male wasn't. So I was breeding them together, and they were Pokemon that I had already bred, so they were both like American versions. So I wasn't even using the Masuda method, and I had never completed a Pokedex, so I never got a shiny charm. But when I bred this male and this female together, like within the the 4th batch of eggs that I had with them, one of the eggs hatched, and it was a shiny, and I was completely floored. Like, how in the world did I get a shiny when I wasn't even trying for a shiny? I was trying to get good IVs. So I looked at it. I looked at the stats. First of all, this shiny Bulbasaur was a female. So already, this was a really good Pokemon because a shiny starter Pokemon in of itself is amazing. And then to have that shiny starter Pokemon be a female, what are the odds of that? On top of that, it had the hidden ability Chlorophyll. So that's an additional 50% chance. Like what? I can't even think about what the odds are that you could get a shiny female starter with its hidden ability. And if that wasn't enough, it had 4 out of the 6 IVs that could have been perfect. The only 2 IVs that it wasn't perfect in were HP and attack. And a little disappointing that it didn't get the perfect IV and HP, but But I was happy with having perfect IVs in defense, special attack, special defense, and speed. So a decent IV Pokemon that was a starter Pokemon, female, hidden ability, shiny. What are the odds of that? And I wasn't even trying. I was I was so happy. And I decided to nickname it Phyllis, mostly after the chlorophyll ability. You know, chlorophyll, Phyllis, um, and I brought that into my battle against Mr. AGZ. He liked that I had nicknamed it Phyllis. I don't really understand why, but I'm not gonna ponder on that. That was my favorite time that I had hatched a shiny Pokemon. Well, that takes care of Pachirisu and Pichu. I'm glad that I drew them in their shiny forms, but seeing this Pichu now, I think I'm gonna have to go back later and redo the black portions because you can barely see the tail or my signature in this image. So I'm gonna go do that later. But I am completely exhausted. I did not expect Pachirisu and Pichu to take this long, even if I didn't draw them in their shiny forms. So I'm unfortunately going to have to skip out on Gengar in this video and save it for the next video. But that's okay, because maybe instead of a shiny Gengar, I can try something else, and you can look forward to that. One other thing that I need to make note of, I am not going to be making a video for this coming Wednesday because that's going to be the day before Thanksgiving, and I'll be out of town to go visit my family. So, and I'm not even sure that I'm going to be able to have a video a week from today, like next Saturday, because I'm not sure if I'm going to be back in town before then. But when I do get back into town, I will resume with Gengar, and then maybe do something else in the free paint section. Now, in the comments below, tell me about your first shiny. How did you encounter it? And now, please keep in mind, don't include the Lake of Rage Gyarados, because I really don't count that as anyone's first shiny, because, you know, everyone can have that encounter. So, other than the red Gyarados from the Lake of Rage, what was your very first shiny? Alright then, see you later, and have a happy Thanksgiving.